kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this more like I don't even know where I am. Ooh, baby, get hyped to the beat, let's go, cause this is our jam. This is our jam. Let's go. Let me break it down right quick for my haters, my dictators and bad raiders. Since you never seem to get it right no more, then right no more. Kick back your feet and watch your back from perpetrators. My game's strong in my Range Rover. I got the blackjack juice and my racks off the roof. And you see the SUV rolling up next to me, old enough to take you over Sesame. Remember, back when I was a kid, all I did was stroll back from the cold over South Bridge. My mama told me do no entiendo. All I ever heard was noise over my Nintendo. But when you get the chance to go up in this life, make sure that you take it, never ever think twice, yeah. And if you wanna get higher, pick up the mic and get to rapping, cause you're never getting higher. Yeah, in the front row, kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this more like I don't even know where I am. Ooh, baby, get hyped to the beat, let's go, cause this is our jam. This is our jam. Oh, yeah. In the front row, kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this more like I don't even know where I am. Ooh, baby, get hyped to the beat, let's zone, cause this is our jam. This is our jam. Oh. When I reminisce over you, my lordy, rest to make way for my newfound shorty. Checking the mic for ligaments while I reckon. Same time came out the womb while recording. All I ever did was make jokes out of suckers. Told them about the life that I live, mad ruckus. But if you never seen a grown man rock jewelry like me, jealous if it coming over you, then you bite me. All these other people, they be coolin' just like me. Talking about the homies and unusually right beat. Yeah, my crew is off the roof, and I told her not to brag about the crew, even though it's new. Even though it's new. Yeah, in the front row, kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this more like I don't even know where I am. Ooh, baby, get hyped to the beat, let's go, cause this is our jam. This is our jam.
Ay, one time like, two time like, ay, me pop up. Say let me put you in position for the acquisition of some major paper. I'm just dipping, we ain't even tripping. You could thank me later, sauce and dripping. I'm finger licking, serving different flavors. See me flicking while I'm chasing chicken, flying on some acres. Ay, old school weed, sending nothing but some G's. Any full pack of top papers, about to put some P's in it. Twerk it for me, baby, and make sure you put your knees in it. I got leg room, I could probably fit your knees in it. What y'all know about that country from by the river's edge? Thought I told you colder than a winter out in Winnipeg. Popping like you better be when you the proper pedigree. Blowing sweet and sour while I'm chewing on that sesame. Know that God blessing me so they can't get the best of me. Sometimes he be testing me so I perfect my recipe. Cocoa butter cutter, got it cracking at the crib. We some ghetto boys now, lacking where I live. I might ride around my side of town, I'm flexing, feeling fancy. Just filled up my stomach, I got extra in the pantry. Getting top and winning, still no, I don't need no plan B. Only give a about my freedom and my family. Keep it playing, keep it pushing, keep them guessing, keep them looking. Keep my people out the booking, cause we legendary. I just talking how I live it. If I said it, then I meant it. If I did it, then I did it, cause it's necessary. Keep it G and keep it true to you. Just act like this ain't new to you. I treat it like it's usual, we legendary. I just get it how I live it. If I said it, then I meant it. If I did it, then I did it, cause it's necessary. Look, all my fresh up out the mud like a mineral. Riding with them soldiers.
Welcome to the only show bringing cops and the community together with some real talk and some real listening. This is uncut. This is uncensored. This is Black and Blue Live. Hey, Black and Blue fan, welcome to Black and Blue Live. My name is Dale. Like it says right there, welcome to the show. This is the live version of the Black Blue Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and taking part in this conversation. How's your weekend going? Mine's going pretty good. It's pretty hot out here in SoCal. I'm sure it's pretty hot everywhere, wherever you are, wherever you're watching us right now on these platforms. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So, spread the word. Tell everybody to check out the show because we got a good one on today. Bring in your comments and questions, and I'll be sure to get those on because we got a real good show on for you today. Like I said earlier, this is the show where we bring cops and community together for some real talk and some real listening, but not all the time is cops, because we are first responders, one and the same in the fire service as well. So today's guests are fire service professionals, and I'm gonna bring those on to have some conversation with you, and we can talk about what they do in relation to a lot of things going on: diversity, leadership, inclusion, and handling mass casualty events and all those sort of first responder sort of things. So without further ado, let me bring on our guests and hey, let's get it chopping. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So my first guest, he is the fire chief over there in Oakland, California, just north of where I am down here in Southern California. So everybody, please help me welcome to the show, Dr. Reginald Freeman. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing good, brother. How about you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for coming on to the show. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
All right. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do up there in Oakland.
Well, I was originally born in the great state of Louisiana. My father, he was in the military, so we moved around every few years, but I have been in the fire service for 21 years. Been the chief here at Oakland for the past year, and prior to that I served in the private sector with Lockheed Martin as their fire chief, as well as the fire chief and emergency management director for the city of Hartford in Hartford, Connecticut. And also spent 4 years in Iraq as a chief working for the Department of Defense.
All right, well, you got a breadth of knowledge there and experience, so we will call upon that in this conversation as well. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Our next guest here is a 25-year fire service veteran. He's up in Redmond, Washington, even further north than Dr. Freeman. And everyone, please help us welcome to the show, Chief Adrian Shepard. How you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing fantastic, sir. And yourself?
I'm great, and I'm glad you came to the show. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do up there in Redmond.
So absolutely. Well, a little bit about me. I've been in the fire service, as you said, for 25 years. Started my career in the city of Oakland, California. Worked there until 2015. After that, I ported my skill set over to the city of Richmond, just down the road from Oakland. I worked there for 6 years. Retired out of the California system and redeployed myself up to the Pacific Northwest, the beautiful state of Washington. So I'm here surrounded by a lot of greenery and beautiful weather.
Yes.
So that's my fire service career. I was born in California, raised in California, spent my in fact, I had to go get a Washington driver's license, and I realized that it had been 40 some odd years with a California driver's license, and it was very hard to get rid of that. So,
yeah, I bet. And what's the weather like right now up in Redmond?
Oh, you know what? I'm sitting here. We're sitting in the 80s, and I'm overlooking Lake Washington, which is just a beautiful, beautiful location. So.
Yeah. I'm not jealous at all. Not at all.
Hey, and Dale, just know for the record, Oakland Fire, that's what made Chief Shepard great. That was his foundation, Oakland Fire.
Yeah. Dr. Freeman is correct.
Yes. All right, we'll definitely get into that. And our last guest, but certainly not least, is a 27-year veteran of the Dallas Fire and Rescue Service. Everyone, please help us welcome to the show, Assistant Chief Frank McKinley. Evening, sir.
Hey, Hey, good evening. Good evening. Hey, Dale, I want to tell you thank you so much for having me on, and it's a tremendous privilege. I've had the a privilege of serving the citizens of Dallas for nearly 27 years. It'll be 27 years in September, and I've served in a number of different capacities. I've served in we're a fire-based EMS system, and so we do. I'm still a paramedic, and so I've also worked in higher education. I currently am an adjunct instructor for TEACS, Texas A&M Extension Service out in College Station. I've taught as an adjunct professor for Dallas College. I've taught as an adjunct professor for Tarrant County. So while I work in public safety, I'm very passionate about higher education, and I think that in everything that we do in public safety, this is a very critical component. So, thank you again for having me on. I'm excited to have some of these conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were, it looks like, an avid sneaker collector, right? Sneakerhead.
I am a sneakerhead, and my kids are actually worse than me. So this is where they moved me to.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So we'll definitely talk about some of our quirks and likes and hobbies and all that sort of stuff, and this and the rest of this conversation. So let's get to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking here about leadership in the fire profession. We've got three fire service executives and leaders here on the boards, and we'll definitely talk about that. Let me bring on a couple comments here before we get started here. We've got, is it Myra Mecki says, we're so proud of you, Frank McKinley. So definitely, we are proud of you too.
That
I'm glad
that
you're on the show.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I do want to give a shout out to my cohort. I'm currently working on my doctorate at Southern Methodist University, and my cohort has been so supportive in higher education and our discussions and our dialogue, and they've been tremendous, and they've had so much influence on the things that I know that we're going to discuss today when we talk about organizational leadership and organizational change. And so they've been a tremendous influence, and I appreciate the support and thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Yes, yes. And she was on LinkedIn. So again, we're on those platforms. So everybody send in your comments, questions. I'll definitely get those on. Well, I'm in the presence of greatness today. We've got a Dr. Freeman on the show, and Assistant Chief is working on his doctoral degree. And I'm sure Chief Shepard, you've got some higher education as well. Is that correct?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And I've got my master's too. So I recently got my master's in 2020 in organizational leadership. So kind of feel good with that. And we also got another comment here. Let me make sure I get that on before we move on. They've got a private profile name, but they are on LinkedIn. It says, nice panel. We'll have to jump off soon, but plan to watch the recording. All right. It'll be on the recording as well. So be sure to check that out whenever you can. Thank you for your time, whatever that is that you can spend with us. So real quick, let's talk about your respective agencies. Just tell everybody a little bit about your agencies, how large they are, what sort of services you provide. We'll start with you, Dr. Freeman.
Thank you, Dale. So for City of Oakland, Oakland itself is 72 square miles, have approximately 500,000 residents in Oakland, and then we have strategically located throughout those 72 square miles are 25 firehouses with funded 520 firefighters that serve our great city. And one thing unique about Oakland is the fire service, we say an all hazards mitigation organization, but Oakland is truly that. There's not many jurisdictions that can say that they have to contend with possibly earthquakes or tsunamis or wild and urban interface. But we have all of that and then some in Oakland. So I'm very proud and humbled to be able to serve all of the members of the Oakland Fire Department as well as our great residents.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, those are sort of things that, and we'll talk about all the sorts of different things that fire service personnel have to train for and be ready for. And I'm glad you brought up, earthquakes, because that's one thing that, we have to deal with here in California. And, there was a big one up there in, was it 89 during the World Series? I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, October 91 is when we had our Oakland Hills fire here, where tragically we lost 25 people in that fire. And actually, the street I live on is where we lost Battalion Chief Jim Riley as he was protecting a woman from a down power line. But unfortunately, both of them perished in that fire. And the last thing I'll add, Dale, about Oakland Fire is there are 28 FEMA-sponsored urban search and rescue teams throughout the United States. There are 8 in the state of California. In Oakland, we are host to the California Task Force number 4, which is comprised of 13 different agencies, but we are the lead and the host agency for one of the 28 FEMA-sponsored USART teams, to where they respond anywhere in the United States, and quite possibly we have a few teams that respond to international incidents. And the last incident we responded to was the Chamberlain Tower collapse in Florida. We actually sent some personnel to that incident, and of course, we were at 9/11.
Yes. And I love sitting here talking to you guys because, I'm in law enforcement, and you 3 gentlemen are all in fire service. So some of these things, I don't know about as well. And I'll be asking, just like some of our viewers, I'm sure will be asking questions and that. So I love hearing that. Love hearing this stuff. Chief Shepard.
Yeah, sure. So City of Redmond, we have a fire department. We have 7 stations. We have approximately 175 people. But we also we're a contract provider as well. So we provide service to local jurisdictions. We actually have a sphere of influence of approximately 366 miles. And we serve approximately 280,000 people. Some of the things that I really like about our organization, and much of what Dr. Freeman just spoke of, we have concerns about wildland urban interface. Certainly with climate change, that it becomes a greater concern for us. We have the Cascadia fault, so we're very concerned about earthquakes that could occur here, will occur here. We just don't know when it will. But one of the things that is really special about the Redmond Fire Department is that we run Medic One out of the Redmond Fire Department. And so our Medic One program is renowned. It's one of the best medic programs in the country, therefore in the world. Just to give you a statistic, when the national average for a cardiac event occurs for a person's survival, usually hovers just a little bit below 10%. However, because of our response model, and we were very intentional about it, our recovery rate neurologically intact is about 57.7%. So we're really intentional about how we provide our service here in the city of Redmond to all of our customers. And we just think that's a huge bragging point. Something else I'd like to point out is that we had the very first COVID case up here. And it was very interesting to debrief with the responders and find out how they responded to that event, basically flying in the dark and not knowing what they had. They were at a long-term care facility, and they turned that into a mass casualty event just based on the fact that someone was ill at a medical facility, but they couldn't determine. So really got some bragging points about our medical system here. Everyone brags about their organizations. That's one of our bragging points here. We've got a world-class medical system, and I'm just super pleased to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember that time when the first COVID case was up in Washington State. I do remember that. And before we get to you, Chief McKinley, let me get a couple more comments on the screen here from Chief Cheryl Victorian, Chief of Police in Waco. Says, happy to see you expanding the conversation to include our fire public safety partners, Dale. Impressive group of leaders. Of course, I'm pleased to see Texas represented. Great job. Yes, indeed. And Rudy Perez on LinkedIn just says, hope we're doing well and great podcast. So thank you for that. And Yeah, so go ahead, Chief McKinley.
Yes, I mentioned earlier that we are a fire-based EMS system. We have approximately 2,000. We try to maintain around 2,000 uniform members. We have an incredible support staff in Dallas, and we provide emergency medical service, and we seen a lot of different events. We've seen Ebola and different things that have occurred over the course of the years that we had to respond to, and um, it's been incredible. We have a population of about 1.4 million. We're one of the fastest growing fire-based EMS systems in the United States, and so. Uh, it's a privilege to show to service a very diverse community. We do a lot of different things from urban search and rescue to a number of different special operations, and so it's been a real privilege to serve this community in a number of different capacities. And so we also utilize our resources to respond to different areas and different locations. We've sent several of our members out to fight wildland fires and things of that wildland urban interface to do things in that capacity. And so it's a tremendous privilege to serve this community, and I can't wait to get further into the conversation to speak of the diversity that we experience here in Texas, and I'm sure again out in California they see that same level of diversity, and I know that we're going to really get deep into a conversation of customer service, and so that's one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about, as well as education. But that's what we do here in Dallas, and we're hiring. And so if anybody is watching this podcast, I do want to put a shout out because I am over recruitment too, and I think that when we have an opportunity to utilize this platform to try to do these type of things, it's very incredible, and we want to continue to build our team. So that's Dallas.
All right, and we'll stick with you, and then we'll move on down the line. Since you did talk about recruitment, and some people watching right now, maybe listening later, are interested in becoming firefighters, and they don't know where to start, and all that sort of thing. What interested you guys in fire service as opposed to law enforcement or nursing or law or anything of that nature? What interested you in fire service, and how'd you get involved with it? We'll stick with you, Chief McKinley.
Okay. I love this question, and it's something that I'm tremendously proud of. My brother, William O'Neill, and I know Reggie knows my brother as well. He's been a tremendous influence in my life, and tremendous role model for me. And growing up, being exposed to it. And again, I understand, it's a predominantly white male dominated profession. And to see my brother be so passionate about something, to be able to, um, you know, raise his beautiful daughters and do the things that he's done, it really kind of set a torch for me back in a time when I was in middle school. I was very impressionable, and I was exposed to it, and he shared that with me, and it's been a tremendous influence. And so, we have several family members, several relatives that we've brought into the fire service, to the family, and it's been an incredible experience. But unfortunately, a lot of times we don't get a chance to see that. We don't get a chance to understand what the fire service, what the police department is, and I think that there's poor narrative in media and things like that for police and fire. And I think that it's important for us to have these conversations, to be able to share those positive experiences and those positive role models that really encourage us to do exactly what we're doing. And I think when we talk about leadership in the fire and public safety in general, I think it's important to share these stories and to have this narrative.
Yep, absolutely, I agree, and that's something that people want to get out there, and why I started this show, to show people that we all have different experiences, and we have some of the same experiences that wanted to draw us into law enforcement, draw us into fire service, draw us into all these different professions. We're all human beings. We all got the same likes and dislikes, and that's what makes the world go round. Chief Shepherd, talk about what got you involved.
Well, absolutely. And this is a great question. So actually, I didn't grow up with an interest of being a firefighter. Didn't think it was a career for me. It wasn't until I actually had gotten out of the military and I was standing on a street corner in San Francisco and a car pulled up and a gentleman named James Outley, he was the president of the San Francisco Black Firefighters Association, asked me if I was interested in a job in being a firefighter. He lived in Oakland. I lived in Oakland at the time, and so we met up to have lunch. Uh, and he just really enlightened me to all the benefits of the career and the joys. Coincidentally, about that time, I stopped in at the brand new Station 26th on 98th Avenue, and it was Tony Perez was the lieutenant there that day, and he brought me in, and he just started talking to me, and he had such joy in his face. And he really wanted me to know that this was a good career. I had a couple of questions, and I think he was impressed that I actually rang the doorbell. They invited me back later on that evening to have dinner with them. He, another gentleman named Neil Gaddison, who since passed away, gentleman, perfect gentleman. But they really piqued my interest in a career in the fire service. And as I looked further into it, because I am a person who believes in providing service to the community, uh, it piqued my interest to the point that I wanted to take the test. Didn't think I was going to be successful in the process. I believe it was 15,700 some odd people who showed up for the written exam in downtown Oakland, and they hired 28. And I
Wow.
don't know what mistake they made along the way, but I happened to be selected amongst this great group of 27 other people, and I've loved the career ever since. I've never missed a day of work. It's that rewarding, and so I continue to have an interest in just being out there serving the community. How we can have better or more positive outcomes, just because of our contact with people. And it was that little contact that James Outley had with me that provided me a full career.
Yep, that part right there, absolutely. And Dr. Freeman, what got you involved with fire service? What piqued your interest?
Well, it's similar story to Chief Shepherd, but before I could jump into it, I made a mistake of not acknowledging my two great brothers, Adrian and Frank. I've known both for years. Chief Shepherd, one of the brightest minds in the fire service, and Chief McKinley easily could be a fire chief today, and I'm gonna make sure I help him do that, whether he wants to or not, because he is certainly someone who gets it and who can lead with absolutely no issues. And that's we need more of that in the fire service. But to answer your question, brother, for me, I did not see a fire apparatus drive by me at 3 years old, and I knew at that very moment that I knew I wanted to be a firefighter. I've heard that story so many times from others. I believe about 60% of the people that say that, but uh, ironically enough, I wanted to be a U.S. Marshal or a DEA agent as a kid, because my family, just like many others, were negatively impacted, or I'll just say crushed by the crack pandemic. So I wanted to lock up as many drug dealers as I possibly could. So that was my original career ambition. But then when I realized in order to become a federal officer, you have to have at least 6 years on the street as a cop or a 4-year criminal justice degree, I changed my mind real quick. That's not something I was interested in. So I remember a friend and a mentor of mine who was actually my barber, PJ. He had said, "Hey, Reg, you really ought to think about joining the fire service because the city is looking to hire some folks, and they're specifically looking to hire black firefighters, and I think you'd be great at it." And I was an athlete at the time, just had finished, just graduated high school, just had started college, all American in high school, in track and field. So I said, well, you know what? Let me look into it. So I looked into the process, went through the physical agility, the written exam, and eventually got hired on. And it was the first day on the job I knew that I'd be doing this for the rest of my professional career. The passion that I have for people and the passion that I have for serving that is a perfect combination for someone who wants to be a firefighter, because I truly believe you cannot be a public servant without being passionate about people and passionate about serving. And then the fire service is the ultimate team sport. You know, we have ultra athletes in the fire service to where the physical demands are very, very high, and the emotional toll that it takes to execute your sworn duties and responsibilities as a firefighter are equally high.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love hearing these stories because, you know, they kind of mirror what, you know, myself and other people that I normally have on the show in law enforcement talking about, you know, service and wanting to help people and all that sort of thing. Fire service wouldn't have interested me, though, because it gets hot when you're fighting those fires. So, you know, so I props to you gentlemen for sticking it out for 20 plus years in that profession. Because as you, I'm sure all three of you know, even fighting the wildfires out here in California and in Texas, and I'm sure all the way up to Washington. You know, when I see firefighters doing that, you know, in my city, when they send people out to go fight the, you know, in the allied response when fighting those wildfires, I'm like, how you doing? It's already 100 degrees, and then you got to put on all your gear, and then you're fighting the fire. And yeah, props to you, gentlemen. Props to you guys. Yeah. So, you know, you guys are, like I just said, you guys have 20 plus years in the profession. How's it changed since day one? How's it evolved since when you first got on? Anybody?
Sure. Well, I'll lead off. Change is slow in the fire service, and that's one of the things that we just have to come to grips with. However, it is changing, and it's changing because of gentlemen like you. You know, if you read Dr. Freeman's dissertation about servant leadership, that changes the perspective about what it is we're doing. We had a brief, Chief McKinley and I had a brief conversation earlier, and just talking about leadership and education in the fire service. Well, we've become a little bit more professional. We've applied the rules of education to some of our minimum requirements, really, of being a firefighter. But there are still things that we need to do, and I know we'll get to this a little bit later. But you know, how do we make the fire service a welcoming place for everyone? We know full well we can get qualified people from every demographic, but why aren't we? And so, though there has been changing technologies, you know, better equipment, we've changed the standards. We still haven't made that adaptive change, that cultural change that precludes people from getting into this profession. And that's why I'm so proud to see these gentlemen on here. I'm so proud to know their backgrounds and what it is they're doing, because it's very easy to actually get into the profession and take care of you and yours without looking out for others. But when you actually are opening up that aperture and making sure that you're actually trying to find pathways, if you will, for people to get into the fire service. That's what we're doing now. That's what's changed in the fire service. We're very intentional about going out and making more than service, that we do find these qualified people to come in and actually be the next leaders of the fire service.
Yep. Anybody else? Chief McKinley, we can't hear you, Chief. Must be muted. In the meantime, Dr. Freeman, you want to jump on?
Sure. So, you know, being in the game 21 years, which is weird saying that because it seems like I just walked through the doors for the first time just a few years ago. That's how quick time flies. But when I first got on, it was more leaning towards the side of being paramilitary. And there was a lot of autocratic leadership demonstrated day in and day out. And, you know, we always talk about the three main forms or styles of leadership, which is autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. But there are literally thousands of different leadership styles out there per academia. So when someone asks me, so Reg, what's your leadership style? And I say, pick one. It depends on the scenario and the situation. So the fire service, when I first got on, you didn't ask why. Today, you're going to get asked why. The fire service I got on, you didn't walk by a lieutenant or captain or even a senior firefighter for that matter, and you were a probie and they walked by with a broom or a mop in their hand and you didn't try to take it out of their hand. That never happened. Today, today that tends to happen. So the differences in the priorities of the fire service and its members, I think, is very prevalent. And as someone who's a member of Gen X, one thing that we learned from our millennial members is that time with family and friends is very important. And for me, I recall, even to this day, but even when I first got on the job, if I got a phone call or someone said, "Hey, Reg, we need you to work, we need you to pull a 24-hour overtime tomorrow," there's no questions asked. I did it with a big smile on my face. And today, it's quite different. And we say have a work-life balance, but then when it actually happens, we're like, well, wait a minute. Hey, let's start that after you pull this 24-hour shift.
Right.
Then we can start talking about having a work-life balance.
Yep.
And so I think our younger generation is truly teaching us by force what it means to have a true work-life balance and for us to change and pivot what we feel is proper in the workplace as it pertains to member engagement. And you notice not one time have I said employee or subordinate, because in the Oakland Fire Department, we don't have employees or subordinates. We have members of the team and we have family members. Because if you treat people like employees, they're going to act like it. And that's something else that we have learned from our millennials and Gen Z members in the workforce. And for those that in conversation have an opinion on what a millennial's work ethic is or personality characteristics may be, just know there are only 40 million Gen Xers in the workplace versus 80 million millennials. So guess who's about to be the boss?
Right.
So through
Yeah, but
proper professional development, through proper succession planning, we have to start preparing the next generation to ascend these leadership roles and opportunities because they're coming for them.
yep. And to keep on that topic, on that train of thought, with millennials, do you guys question, because we're all old school, do you question, like you said, their work ethic, their commitment, because they're not willing to jump at the senior members and stay on the job for this long amount of time. They want to have that workplace and home balance and all that. Do you find yourselves questioning their commitment? Do they question their commitment? Do they want to stay on and be in this professional, or do they have the attitude like, hey, I can go work for tech, or I can go work from home somewhere? What do you guys feel about that? Go ahead, Chief McKinley. Oh man, we still can't hear you. I think you have something going on with your AirPods. So if you can just disconnect those and just go straight in from your computer, and then just jump in at any point once you get that set. If you need to log off and then log back on, do that too, because sometimes it may stick. But we'll stick with this conversation until you come back on. Either Chief Shepherd or yeah, go ahead, Chief Shepherd.
Yeah, great question. That's that multi-generational workforce that they talk about. And so as fire service leaders, we have to really evolve ourselves in what's our emotional intelligence, how are we responding to this new workforce. And first and foremost, we create an environment that people do want to come to. And we also change the way we communicate with people. As Chief Dr. Freeman indicates, they're going to ask the why. And if you weren't accustomed to that kind of, I won't call it blowback, but certainly a retort, certainly you have to learn to evolve and say, well, let me explain the why, because the why is important as to why it is we do things. And so that's just an evolution that we understand. People do come in and out of the fire service nowadays because we do. We ask for more education. People are more marketable. and that's important. And this is not a career for everyone as well. It's long hours. It's very challenging. Um, I worked in Oakland, and I can only imagine if I worked in Oakland how difficult it is in Dallas. But it's going to be some long nights, and you're going to be required to be at work. And so the people that we have are specially selected. Um, but sometimes people jump off ship, and we understand that, and we help facilitate them to get to where they want to be. If you want to be here, we're willing to have you. We're willing to work with you. If you want to go elsewhere, how can we help facilitate that as well? I think that's important for today's leaders to understand that. You are going to be asked the why.
Absolutely. And real quick, on LinkedIn, Chief Redmond Police Chief Daryl Lowe says, shout out to my Redmond public safety brother, RPD, in the house.
That's right.
Yep. Chief Lowe's been on the show as well. Can we hear you now, Chief McKinley? I don't think so. Why don't you just log off, because we can see you and you can hear us. So I think it has something to do with your AirPods. Just log off, disconnect those from your computer, and then log back on. We'll be here when you come back. And in the meantime, let's move on to another topic of discussion. We're all African Americans here. What was the makeup of African Americans when you first joined? Did you see a lot of people that look like you when you first joined, and what does that look like today? Either one of you can jump on.
Yeah, so I'll start off with this one. So for me, Dale, my career starting in Mississippi, I took a very unorthodox route to be where I'm at. Very blessed, very fortunate to have the honor and privilege of serving as a chief. And my foundation started in a not so pleasant way. So that department that my barber, encouraged me to apply for, and I eventually got hired on with, I was the only African American. And anything you can imagine in Mississippi in 2001, I experienced. So noose in my locker, broken glass in my bunk boots, being called the N-word, hearing the N-word on a regular basis. That was my experience. And that really molded and shaped me into the professional that I am today. And for me, what that means is that it does not matter your gender, your orientation, how you identify, whatever religion you choose to practice, anything outside of work, how you choose to live personally or who you are, none of that will impact how you are treated in the workplace under my leadership. And that is something I have zero tolerance for, is any form of ism, right? Racism, sexism, genderism. I have zero tolerance for it. And I tell people all the time, if someone were to know how it feels to be discriminated against or to be on the receiving end of any form of bias or bigotry, they wouldn't dare impose that on anyone else. It is something that no one should experience in the workplace. And so in the fire service, as Chief McKinley mentioned earlier, the fire service is predominantly white male. And fire departments traditionally have not been truly reflective of their respective communities. And so I'm just very proud of the fact that in Hartford, out of the 125 firefighters I hired in Hartford, 95 are either members of the African American or Latinx community. 95 out of 125. And even here in Oakland, to where we have a very, very fluid and diverse population, my first recruit class was truly reflective of Oakland, to where we had 5 members that were of Asian descent or heritage, another 6 members who were Latinx. We had 3 women and only the second African American woman in a class in the last 12 years that was able to to graduate. And then we had 9 African Americans, with following another 5 Caucasians in that class. And our fire department is comprised of, it's 13% Asian. And so we're just very, very proud of our fire department being truly reflective of the community that we serve. But my experiences as it pertains to racism and me being the only one at the beginning of my career has really ensured that everything that we do under my leadership is truly walking the talk of embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Can we hear you yet, Chief McKinley? Man, I don't know what happened. Something with those earbuds just messed up your whole computer setup. You may even have to reboot your computer, because I think it's probably thinking that those earbuds are still connected when they're not. And then that's taking over your system, because you can hear us, but for some reason your microphone, you got to disconnect that microphone. So sticking to this conversation about, you mentioned women, Dr. Freeman. Women, we don't have as much. I mean, in law enforcement, we still want to try to recruit women into the profession, because, like you said, this is mainly a male-dominated profession, just as fire service is. But I find that more women are in law enforcement than would say fire service, and maybe is that because of the physical aspects of the job? What do you two think about that? What kind of does this entices females to join the profession? How can you guys change that?
Chief Shepherd.
I can certainly speak. Yeah, I can speak to some of my experiences. I won't pretend to speak for women but some of my experiences have been that we haven't created an environment that is hospitable for women coming into the fire service. As has been indicated, the prototypical firefighter is a white male, but definitely a male nonetheless. And so when you're the few, as Chief Dr. Freeman was talking about earlier, you know it. They know it when you walk through the door, and you know it as well, that you're the only one. And so when you're living with people, you're sleeping in the same quarters as these people, you really have to create an environment that is welcoming. How we communicate, there's a lot of male energy inside of a firehouse, and I wouldn't take that away for the world, but I would certainly make sure that it's appropriate and conducive to a professional environment. And so then, there's the factor that parenthood comes along. And just as it's difficult for a male to be away, it's difficult for a mom to be away for an extended period away from her kids. And so I think that factors in, but I think moreover, we just haven't really created those environments for women to come in and be as successful. I wanted to circle back and to your previous question, and you talked about coming into an environment and what that looked like. And for me, I was very fortunate in one regard, because I did start off in the open fire department, and we had a large number, very diverse department, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, African Americans. And as much of a blessing it was also more difficult, because those people were going to be very hard on you, because as told to me, you can't be 100%. You have to be 150%. And so they were very, very hard on us, which lovingly hard on us, to make sure that we were our very best, and so we could compete for exams. I can remember sitting inside firehouses with some of the more tenured African Americans in the department, and who had been successful in other promotions, and them really working hard to make sure that you're successful, not only to pass the test, but to actually do the job. There was a captain, Rahman Ali Muhammad, and he's really my mentor even to this day. And I can remember when I got promoted, he gave me 3x5 cards. And on the 3x5 cards was how my day was supposed to go, how many times I checked my email, what do I do at 10 o'clock, what do I do at 12 o'clock. And it really shaped my day for a new officer. I think we need to do that also for the women coming in, let them know that there is going to be some challenges how to handle these challenges. Um, and also at the same time, create that environment. So talk to the men that are inside these firehouses and change their thinking to that cultural shift, because we have to shift and evolve as an organization. Um, Oakland had a lot of women, and the chief is spot on. He continues to do that. I'm very pleased with Redmond. We have a lot of women who represent our ranks. We just promoted our first battalion chief, who is a woman. More to follow on that. But we're bringing them into the ranks, and they're leading. And if nothing else, they're they're certainly on our heels and creating a good challenge for us.
Yep. And let's stick to that real quick. Let's see if Chief McKinley, if we can hear you now. Hopefully, say something there. Oh my God, we cannot hear you. Maybe you can switch a device. Try a phone this time. Use that same link that I sent you, because for some reason your ear pod isn't. It just went dead. Yep. So hopefully we can get you back on so we can hear you. That's weird. You can hear us, but going back to the conversation about females, and for our listeners, we're talking about people thinking about joining fire service. Kind of talk about how fire service scheduling works. I know it is some sort of 24-hour work day. Kind of talk about that, because in law enforcement we do our either 8s or 10s or 12s, and then we go home every day. How's it work in fire service?
Yeah, that's real cute, Dale. That's real cute.
Hey, we got those friendly rivalries. We gotta get our digs in when we can.
That's right. Hey, for us, man, every jurisdiction varies. The more popular schedule for firefighters is 24 hours on and 48 hours off. Hartford, the firefighters work 24 hours on, 72 hours off. And then here in Oakland, we work 48 hours on and 96 hours off. The membership, they love it. I'm trying my best to convince them or talk them into looking at the 24/72. So I've started those conversations with the union to see if that's something that they're interested in pursuing. But the schedule, we have firefighters who, as Chief Shepard mentioned, with us in Oakland, because we are so short staffed, one shift is 2 days, two shifts is 4 days. And I got firefighters that are working 8-9 days straight, right? Some instances I've had battalion chief work 14 days straight. And so California is a very transparent state, which I appreciate. I think it should, especially as you talk about government employees. But when you see the salaries that members of the fire service make, especially those who are represented, whether it be battalion chiefs or down, and those firefighters are making $300,000, $400,000 a year. Well, it's not as if they would not rather be at home with their family. Their department has asked them to work that overtime, and no one has given them anything. They're actually providing a service. And I could just speak for our members in Oakland, which thankfully the mayor and the city manager has approved additional recruit classes to try to get our staffing up to where it should be, or where it should have been years ago. But with my members, they would rather be at home instead of working 8, 9, 10 days straight and missing birthdays, missing recitals, missing being at home, period, being a partner or being a father or a mother.
Yes,
So
yes.
The schedule could be helpful in some people's instances. And in other times, our firefighters, they sacrifice a lot with working 24 or 48 hours at a time.
Yeah, and I brought that up because we were talking about females in the profession, and when you're working these 24 or 48 hours, 9 days straight, you're actually living there, right? How does that work as far as living quarters? Do females and males share the same living quarters? How does that work?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we got you, Frank. All right. Yeah.
We got you. He's back. He's back. Let me.
And I think it's so sad that I'm over technology in Dallas, and I can't even,
hey, it's that SMU hoodie, man. You should have wore A&M hoodie.
I know. And you might be
talk
right.
about getting your digs in, man.
Yeah, And my family a lot of times tells me I need to shut up sometime and listen, and it has been a real privilege being muted to listen to Chief Shepherd and Chief Freeman. And I'll just retract back real quick, and I love where the conversation it has gone. But when we talk about leadership, and it's so funny, and I've got so many texts about, like, what's behind me and things like that, and I do that because, and I educate and I teach, and I have a Make America Great Again hat. I got my Eldridge Cleaver book back here. I have Malcolm X, and it's a lot of different things. And I think as a leader, one of the things that for anybody that's listening that understands leadership, you represent a lot of people. We service a lot of communities. We talk about LGBTQ. We talk about things that are different than our foundations, are different than our principles. And do you have that ability to serve? Move this hat, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. And I think that attitude, and we talk about leadership, and that attitude and that willingness to serve. Can you serve those communities? And can you lead people that think differently than you think or believe differently? And so much, and so much we talk about leadership and we don't talk about followership. And when you talk about the new generation and you're talking about understanding their needs and their desires,
Mm-hmm.
I think that are not there's not enough emphasis given to that. And you hear the dialogue, you hear the conversation. Well, this new generation, well, this or that. They said the same thing about us. And
Yep.
so I really think that it's important for us as leaders to be able to adapt, to be able to you know get outside of of what we believe and what we think, and a willingness to understand the communities that we serve, something that might be different than us. And so it was great to hear Chief Shepherd talk about that, and Dr. Freeman mention those things. And as we progress and we look at diversity, I know the 2018 report um, is 3.3% of the career fire service is women, which hails in comparison to that of the military, that of the police department, and things like that. And there has to be intentions, and I really think that's where leadership comes in. That's when we have to understand who we're leading, and so we can't just study leadership, and we can't just seek to understand leadership, and we can't just seek to understand or push agendas that we already have. If we're really going to be servant leaders, we have to understand followership. We have to understand what it is that we're supposed to do. We have to continue to educate ourselves. We have to continue to evolve. And that's why, like, having these conversations and having these discussions, and who our next leaders are in public safety, and who's protecting our communities, what represents our community. I mean, we have to continue to have the dialogue, and things have to be done on purpose, regardless of what we believe or what we don't believe. And can you do that job? And I think that if a person is going to be a great leader, male, female, LGBT, it doesn't matter, color, race, you have to be able to understand the community that you serve. You have to understand what you represent. So um, I guess I finally caught up because my microphone was off, and maybe it was done on purpose. But I
Hey,
think it's a great conversation. Um, and women in the fire service is a great conversation. I mean, I can go on for days and days about that. And I think that I have two beautiful daughters, and I would love to think that there's nothing that they couldn't do, and I really believe that. And in order for me to be a leader and lead people, I have to expand my mind. I have to understand. I have to listen. And being muted for as long as I was, I did just that. So this is great conversation. I'm headed back over to you, Dale.
shut up and listen, huh? I got a sign in my home gym that says "shut up and train," so I have to use that one too. Shut up and listen, right? Yeah, let's go to the comment wall real quick. We had a comment from Jay McBain on LinkedIn. He says, for Chief Dr. Freeman, can you speak more to how staffing is or isn't augmented to accommodate the 24/72 schedule versus the 24/48 schedule?
Sure. And hello to Jay, good brother out in North Carolina, fire chief, doing great things out there. So the 24/48 is on a 3 platoon system. The 24/72 is a 4 platoon system. So you have a 56-hour work week versus a 42-hour work week. The 24/72 is a lot more expensive for the municipality. However, it is healthier, so to speak, for the member, just because of the time that they have off.
Got it. Got it. All right. So moving on, fire service. That operative key phrase there is fire, and that's probably the primary duty, at least when fire service was first thought of way back in the 1700s or so. But even the profession has changed. How do you guys stay prepared for all the different things? I know you were talking about earlier, Dr. Freeman, about earthquakes and tsunamis and there's medical aids. Chief McKinley, you were talking about being a paramedic. There's so many different things that fire service has to deal with and be prepared for. How do you do that when there's just so much so much uncertainty and so many things that you could prepare for?
That's the complexity of the profession. And the fire service is a profession that knows no limit to what it is it'll respond to. No matter how bad it is, you'll typically see the fire service there, even if it's something that we haven't responded to previously. So we fall back on some of our training. But how do we stay current? First, we educate ourselves. We're the fire service in name, probably. That's probably what we do the least of. But we did that. That's intentional because there were columns of smoke every single day. So then we got smart and we started having building codes, and we started, having fire prevention and public education, and we did all this, and the columns of smoke started going away, which for me is very great, and that's why I want to put the emphasis on fire prevention and public education. We can, again, that's a technical problem, and we can pretty much engineer that out. What we can't do is get rid of some of the medical issues. That's not within our wheelhouse, and we have to expand our scope as far as what level of care that we can provide. I mean, here in the Pacific Northwest, we carry blood, and we use it.
Wow.
If you have a GI bleed, you're going to get blood. So we carry blood in coolers. We carry heaters on our apparatus. We heat the blood. We infuse you, and we have saved lives. And staying leading edge. Looking at new technologies, electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, that changes the game for us on how we respond, because typically we respond to a car fire and we're going to put water on there. But if it's a hydrogen vehicle, you're not going to do that. And if it's an EV vehicle or an EV, electric vehicle, then you have to be very cautious about knowing which wires to cut and which you can't cut and how to be safe. And so it's if you come to the game knowing what you knew yesterday only, you're very dangerous. And that's why we stay in the books. That's why we educate ourselves. That's why we look for the next threat. And we're constantly trying to engineer away all those threats, providing our people the very best PPE available, making sure that they can respond. So again, expanding that scope, understanding, front load it, put people in fire prevention, run a very comprehensive fire prevention program, public education program, and making sure that you don't have to go to fires. I think that's really, being intentional, as I said, and making sure that we educate ourselves on what the next phase of the fire service is going to be.
And I think that's so huge. And we've seen a lot of changes in society and the things that we've been asked to do as first responders. And we just went through. We're still going through a pandemic, and with COVID and how we respond to different things. And we always say that our number one priority is life safety. And when we talk life safety, we're talking life safety of the public, and we're talking about our members and things like that. So it's been challenging over the past couple of years in how we respond and how we're able to serve the public. And we've changed policies and procedures. We've had to adapt we've had to learn. We have that, so it's a huge transition on the things that we've been asked to do. Again, I mentioned earlier about Ebola in Dallas and having to respond to those different types of calls and the different fears that our members go through. And so it's we speak about educating our firefighters, but also we have to do a good job, like Chief Shepherd mentioned, is educating the public and understanding things that they can do. We're a very, I would comfortably say, over 80% of our calls are emergency medical service. And so we provide a large amount of emergency medical service for the citizens of Dallas. And so when you combine that with socioeconomically marginalized communities and where people don't have health care and things like that, it really exacerbates a lot of things that we're asked to do. And I think that it's real important for us to, and when you were asking how we change, I mean, we have to be able to do assessments as a department, as a city, and understand the needs of a particular area. And that's real important. It's just like how we do our health. If you go get a regular checkup and you find out you have high blood pressure, there are things that they could do to treat it. And if you wait until it kind of progresses to a state to where it causes kidney problems, and then now you're finding yourself chasing it. And so Chief Shepherd, Chief Freeman probably have seen situations in cities that they've had to go in and clean up because the right assessments weren't being conducted, the right decisions weren't being made. And we have to make sure that the health of these cities, of these departments, are great. And they have to be, and I don't think they necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. I think that we have to look at it holistically and find out the best ways to educate and understand the communities that we serve.
Right.
And I know we're coming in on time, Dale. I'll keep it to 30 seconds. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind is the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that is where a professional development program comes into play, that is built and designed for every single member of the organization, regardless if they're sworn or non-sworn. But then also properly preparing through partnering with different entities throughout the community, whether it be NGOs or homeowners association groups, the community emergency response team, which is typically driven by the emergency management office within your respective jurisdiction. All of those collaborative efforts, dialogues, engagements, and partnerships, those will always help to prevent an avoidable incident from occurring, because I think we use the term accident way too loosely. If it's predictable, it's preventable. And if it's preventable, we cannot call it an accident. It was an avoidable incident. And that community risk assessments that's done, that helps drive resources to the actual problem to try to prevent that avoidable incident from occurring, as well as that community risk assessment being part of the larger community risk reduction program, which speaks to what Chief Shepherd mentioned earlier as it pertains to public education, fire investigations, building code officials, firefighters in firehouses. All of that is community risk reduction if all those data elements are used collaboratively and in sync to try to prevent those avoidable incidents from happening.
All right. That part right there. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate the conversation. I got a lot of knowledge and from you guys today, things I didn't know about fire service. A lot of these things are kind of one and the same in public safety altogether, but all the same, I got some good knowledge from you guys. But you guys aren't done. Before I get you out of here, remember I told you we're going to lighten the mood a little bit and play a little trivia game here. So let me get this all started up here for you. This game here is it's Family Game Night. Family Game Night. And you guys' category today is Too Hot to Handle. Too hot to handle. That would be greatest hot streaks in history. What I'm going to do is I'm going to describe
I'm going to give you guys a choice of something that was a great hot streak, whether it be an athlete, whether it be a sports team, whether it be anything. Greatest hot streak. Your name is your buzzer, so just yell out your name, and I will call on you to answer the question. The one who answers the most will be the winner. So everybody got that? Pretty simple, right?
Got it.
All right, here we go. Here's your first question here. Hot streak number 1. This men's college basketball team holds the record for the most consecutive wins. I got some choices here for you. Is it A, Duke Blue Devils, B, Kentucky Wildcats, C, UCLA Bruins, or D, Spelman College?
I gotta go with C.
Who is that? Who is that? Yell out your name. Yell out your name. Reggie. Who'd you say?
C, the Bruins.
It is the Bruins. Yes, UCLA Bruins back in 1971 to 74, 88 straight wins. 88 straight wins. Yep. Wow. Yeah. All right, so 1 on the board for you. All right, hot streak number 2. This movie holds a worldwide box office record at $2,845,899,541. Is it A, Jurassic Park, B, Avatar, C, Titanic, or D, Soul Plane? Reggie, go ahead.
Got to go with that C, Titanic, man.
C, Titanic.
Avatar.
That is
not Avatar.
Yell out your name. Is that Adrian?
Yeah.
Yes, you said Adrian. Avatar. Yes, that is correct. It is Avatar in 2009. So yell out your name, not just the answer, and I will call on you. Here we go. So 1 for Dr. Freeman, 1 for Chief Shepard. We got to get you on the board here, Chief McKinley. Here's your next question. Hot streak number 3. This politician served in Congress for 59 years, winning 29 consecutive elections. Is it John Dingell, Bernie Sanders, Maxine Waters, or Joffrey Baratheon? Reggie, go ahead.
Hey, let's go with A, man. John Dingell.
It is John Dingell. Yes, you see him getting his medal there from President Barack Obama. Good job there. And I don't know if you guys noticed, all the D's usually probably aren't going to be the right answer. Joffrey Baratheon was from Game of Thrones. I don't know. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. All right. Question number 4. This singer holds the record for the most consecutive #1 singles. Is it Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, or Bobby Brown?
Frank Michael Jackson.
Let's say Frank Michael Jackson. That is incorrect.
What?
That is incorrect. You are locked out. Anybody else?
Hey, Reggie, let's go with C, Whitney Houston.
It is Whitney Houston. 7 consecutive #1s for Whitney Houston. All right. He knows his trivia here. He doesn't just know his fire service. Dr. Freeman knows other things. So come on, Chief McKinley. We got to get you on the board. Hot streak number 5. This place holds the record for the hottest temperature ever in the U.S. Is it Death Valley, California, Bullhead City, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, or Providence, Rhode Island? Reggie, you said it was Death Valley. That is correct. It recorded 134 degrees back on July 10th, 1913. All right, number 6. This boxer holds the record for the most consecutive fights won. Is it Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, Julio Cesar Chavez,
B, Floyd Mayweather,
or Apollo Creed? Floyd Mayweather is incorrect.
Hey, Reggie. C.
Hey, Reggie. What'd you say?
C.
Reggie, you said C?
Yep.
That is correct, Reggie. Yes. Wow, he's cleaning up. 87 straight wins for Julio Cesar Chavez. All right. Number 7, this NBA player holds the record for the most consecutive games played. Is it LeBron James, AC Green,
B, AC Green,
Danny Ainge,
yeah, you got that one. Good one,
Sidney
Frank. Good job,
Dean.
Frank.
Frank, you said AC Green, and that is correct. AC Green, 1,192 games. Yes, from
And he was
86
a virgin
to
throughout
01.
his NBA career.
Yep. So he did that. And if you guys go back there, Sidney Dean, anybody know who that is? That's Wesley Snipes' character in White Man Can't Jump. So it wasn't him. All right. Number 8, this U.S. politician served the most consecutive terms as president. Is it Ronald Reagan?
Reggie, Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Franklin D. Roosevelt. Bill Clinton or Joe Quimby? And Reggie, you said it was?
Roosevelt.
It is Roosevelt, FDR. Yes, he served 4 consecutive terms, 16 years as president, and then afterwards, that's when Congress enacted the term limits for president. 2 terms, right? All right, so we got 6 for Dr. Freeman, 1 for Chief Shepherd, and 1 for Chief McKinley. Come on, guys, catch up here. Number 9, this is the longest running show in television history. Is it The A-Team, Friends, The Simpsons, or The Masked Singer?
Adrian
C. It is correct. It is The Simpsons. 1989 to present, 33 years. 33 years. Yes, that is crazy, huh? I don't know if you guys noticed.
Beat that.
No one's gonna beat that. And if you guys noticed on the previous slides with the politician, choice D was Quimby. That's the mayor from The Simpsons, right? Mayor Quimby. So, all right, we'll throw back there. Number 10, this Major League Baseball player holds the record for the most games with a hit. Is it Joe DiMaggio, Pete Rose, Ichiro Suzuki, or Willie Mays Hayes?
Ooh.
Somebody jump in there.
Let's go
D.
with,
Frank jumped in there. Frank who is
Frank
it?
D.
B?
Frank D.
B is in boy?
D is in dog.
D is in dog? Oh, come on, man. You didn't catch that. You didn't catch all the D's are usually not going to be the answer. Go ahead, Reggie.
Hey, we're going to go with Joe DiMaggio.
It is Joe DiMaggio. Yes. He had 56 games in a row with a hit back in 1941. I'll go back to D, Chief McKinley. You know who Willie Mays Hayes is? That's Wesley Snipes' character in the movie Major League. Willie Mays Hayes. So all the D's probably are not going to be a valid answer.
D.
Couple more here for you, gentlemen. This song holds the record for the most consecutive weeks at number 1 on the Billboard charts. Is it Uptown Funk, I'll Make Love to You, Old Town Road, or Ice Ice Baby?
Reggie,
somebody.
Uptown Funk.
Reggie A, that is incorrect.
Frank, I'll go with C.
C, Old Town Road. That is correct. Yes. Old Town Road with Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus spent 18 weeks at number 1 back in 2019. All right. Question number 12. This NFL quarterback holds the record for the most consecutive starts. Is it Joe Montana, Brett Favre, Cam Newton, or Steamin' Willie Beeman?
B. Brett Favre.
That is Frank B. Brett Favre. That is correct. Yes. B. Brett Favre. He had 297 consecutive games at the start from 92 to 2010. And if you guys know Steamin' Willie Beeman, that is Jamie Foxx's character in Any Given Sunday. He was the quarterback on that team. And the last question, I don't think anyone can catch Dr. Freeman. He's got 7. But we'll just do this for anyway. This region is known as the place with the longest burning fire in history. Is it Smoking Hills in Canada, Centralia in Pennsylvania, Mount Wengen in Australia, or Beverly Hills, California? Come on, it's a fire, guys.
Smoking Hills, Canada.
Frank, what was that?
Hey, Smoking Hills, Canada.
Smoky Hills, Canada is incorrect.
Yeah, it's Reggie.
Adrian,
I'll go
C.
with B, Centralia.
That is incorrect as well, Dr. Freeman. So, Adrian, you got one chance. It's probably the right one is.
I've been saying it. You guys haven't heard me. Actually, I said all of them. You guys haven't heard me. It's C.
Oh, you got to yell it out. We couldn't hear you. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, it's C.
It is C. Yes. This, also known as the Burning Mountain, has estimated been burning for 5,000 years. 5,000 years, based on some hole in the soil or in the caverns there. So it has been burning for 5,000 years. But we got 7 for Chief Freeman, 3 for Chief Shepard, 3 for Chief McKinley. So I think we have our winner here, and it is Dr. Freeman. Everyone's hands go up. All
There it
right.
is.
Yep. Sorry, we couldn't hear you there, Chief Shepard. Did we lose Chief McKinley? Hope not, because I want to get some closing thoughts on our way out here. We'll start with you, Dr. Freeman. Just some closing thoughts for our viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you so much again for this opportunity, Dale, and also thank you to Adrian and Frank for joining me and having this great discussion. Uh, Public safety has evolved, and it is at a critical juncture today, whether it be the reimagining of law enforcement and the impact that it's had on the fire service, or the fire service cleaning up its own house in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we have a lot of work to do. But I'm very confident about our future because of the dedicated professionals at the helm today, such as Adrian and Frank within their respective organizations, and then the future of our profession with members of our organization that are members of the millennial and Gen Z generation. They are going to ensure they picked up where we left off. And quite frankly, I would hope be able to solve some of the problems that we have been working on that we have been unsuccessful in doing. And so, again, thank you for this opportunity, and it's been my honor and privilege.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for coming on. Chief Shepard.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, Dale, thank you for your kind facilitation of this. It was very fruitful. Um, it's always a pleasure to be in the company of such distinguished people as Chief McKinley and Dr. Freeman. But moreover, I want to speak to the people that listen in the audience. And we do have ground to make up as a fire service, but we know we have to make that ground up with you. Um, we're constantly evolving, as I've indicated earlier. Um, we are looking to make sure that we do have a better fire service that can better respond. Chief Freeman talked about it earlier, and I think Chief McKinley as well, when we talked about reaching out into the community. What are those affinity groups? Here in the city of Redmond, we have the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, and we have a large Indian American population. We have a very diverse population that we need to serve, and I heard it said earlier, your department needs to reflect the community. And so, for the listening audience, you're those people, and we want you to come see us. We want you to get involved very early. My door is always open, and I mean that for people who don't have the job. Come see me if you're interested in a career in the fire service. Redmond is a beautiful place to live and work. We welcome you. We'll find a place for you, and this is just the first step. So thank you for allowing us to do this and have this forum to reach out into our community.
Absolutely. Appreciate you for coming on. And Chief McKinley.
Again, Dale, I want to say thank you so much for providing a platform where we can have these open discussions, and I think it's been very fruitful. And for people that are listening, whether in the fire service or interested in the fire service or just a part of the public, one of the things that I really want to use this platform to talk about real quickly is mental health, and I think that this is something that we're seeing in society that's very important, especially in public safety. The things that our members are exposed to, being able to take care of our members, and it's something that I feel like as a profession in emergency management and fire safety and public safety, we're doing a better job of, and we have to be conduits to be able to get members the needs and the help that they need to be able to continue to provide the level of service that they see. And so over the course of the last years, and we see things in active shooter, we see things as far as COVID, and we've seen horrible things happen, and we need to make sure that we do a good job as organizational leaders of taking care of our members. And this is a very important aspect, and this is something that we cannot overlook. This is not something that we can put down the road. And so I really want to express how big of an advocate I am for mental health and making sure that we take care of our members. And this is very important. And again, thank you so much. Thank each of you so much. But this is something that we're going to have to continue to do. This is something we're going to have to continue to get better at. And we have to, as leaders, make sure that we continue to serve as a conduit to get our members the help that they need.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. And one thing I glossed over, we didn't get a real chance to talk about it in the interest of time. But I'm law enforcement, and you three are fire service, and I wanted to kind of talk about the relationship between the two, because Chief McKinley, you brought up active shooters, and that's something that all of our communities are preparing for if we haven't already dealt with that. Also, civil disturbances. We all saw that in 2020 and 2021. Civil disturbances. Real quick, before I get you out of here, what's kind of relationship or what kind of things that you guys have to deal with in those events? Active shooter, mass casualty events, civil disturbances. What sort of things do you guys have to deal with in the fire service as far as those events are concerned? Real quick.
Yeah,
Sure,
I'll
go
start
real
off
quick.
briefly.
Okay.
So we're very grateful for the great relationship that we have with the Oakland Police Department. Chief Laurent Armstrong, I consider a friend. True professional, born and raised Oakland. He's making a significant difference in our community with his leadership. On 4th of July, Oakland, even though fireworks are prohibited, the town was lit up. And we stood up our emergency operations center. So I was in the emergency operations center till about 12:30 in the morning. But for night roll call, or lineup as we call it in Oakland, I attended lineup just to thank all of the police officers for their commitment and their dedication, because they had numerous officers working several days in a row as well on overtime, just to show our gratitude. So we are grateful for the partnership, and we very much support our Oakland Police Department family.
Absolutely. Anybody else real quick?
Sure. Absolutely. I was an incident commander for a mass shooting in Oakland, Oikos University, and the relationship that we do have with PD. I don't know if that event went as well as we had wanted it to go. However, it certainly exposed a lot of things that we needed to work upon. And I think that with the prevalence of more mass shootings, we have to kind of define what our role is in the fire service. I wrote a thesis on this that will be published shortly, but one of the things that we have to understand is our role right now is a supporting element in fire when you have an auto-generated mass shooting event. And we are that supporting element. We support PD in whichever way we can support them. But we're not as kinetic in the regard when they make movement to contact to whatever that the person with the weapon is doing. However, making sure that we can get our people to definitive care, making sure that we can have a medical corridor, making sure that our mass casualty training is up to date. Just coincidentally, when I did respond to Waco's the day before, I'd actually had mass casualty training. And so the fire portion of it went off very well. We didn't get involved, but there's tactical medicine. These teams are being put together. I don't know if that's the role we want to go into, but we do have to work very closely with our our police officers to make sure that we actually define our role and that we don't get in your lane because you have a very important job to do. And then our job is to make sure that we're taking care of patients. So,
Sure. And I remember
a lot
real
of work
quick before we get to you, Chief McKinley, back in the day when you fire used to just stage, and now we have warm zones, and you guys are at least responding to warm zones. So, things are always evolving and changing as far as response to these events.
absolutely.
Chief McKinley, real quick.
Yes, one of the things, and I'll just throw this out there, 7/7, when we had the shootings in downtown of police officers and things like that, and those type of events. I mean, it really it changes the discussions, it changes the narrative that we have with our community, and we need to continue as public servants to assess, those relationships and continue to establish those relationships. We need to be in our schools, we need to be in our communities, and we need to have dialogue, and we need to talk about these things, and so as leaders, city leaders, as government leaders, I mean, we have to be able to facilitate dialogue that allows for those discussions to happen, so we can prevent some of those things from happening. But we need to do a better job of understanding our communities and providing an environment where those discussions can be held, and that's very important. And I think that it when we do that, by doing that, we make our communities safer, we make our departments safer. We can have those conversations, and we understand the communities that we serve. And so, I really think moving forward, I think that's probably one of the most important things, is to understand what our roles are as public servants. And so, being able to assess that, being able to have that dialogue, being able to create those environments where we can have those conversations is extremely important, and it keeps our department safer, and it keeps our community safer.
Keeps our community safer. That part right there. All right, gentlemen, thank you once again. Stay right there. I will be back with you guys in 1 minute. All right, guys, what do you guys think about that conversation? That was a dope conversation with some fire service leaders today. I appreciate them for coming on to the show on Black and Blue Live and sharing this discussion with all of you. I really thank all you guys who participated with your comments and your questions for our guests, and they got on there. Hey, this is what this is about. Like I said, cops and community for real discussions and real listening, but it's not just cops. It's fire service. It's all first responders. Hey, it's even teachers. I'll do a show about teachers and what they can do as far as this is concerned. So thank you, everybody that participated on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on LinkedIn. We had real good conversations. I appreciate you. Again, my name is Dale, as it says right there. Till next time, I'll see you with another Black and Blue Live. You know what the saying is. Stay black and blue. I'll holler at you soon. I'm out. Peace.
Figure silhouettes. Is this over? Is this over? Is this over? Can this be over now? Is this over? Is this over? Is this over? Can this be over now? Baby, I surrender. I can't take it anymore.